Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
All right, it is 8:07 on News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We are here helping you make sense of the news. Good morning, Larry. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you as well. Oh, God, did I just say happy Friday? All right, let's just
it's the last one of the week. Last one of the week, Larry.
Patrice. Joining us right now is the Sheriff of Loudoun County, Mike CHAPMAN, friend of the program and a fine lawman who has kept Loudoun County relatively safe in a sadly, with not the same results in some of the counties that border Loudoun, so we'll just leave it at that without dragging him into an inter-county war. Sheriff CHAPMAN, always good to talk with you. Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year to you, Larry, and good to see you. And Patrice, thanks for having me on today.
Listen, you've always been sort of a voice of sanity, reason, and most importantly, law and order in Loudoun County. That's why you continue to get reelected countywide. So we really want to touch base with you so you can comment on some of the actions that we're seeing out of Richmond right now. Most specifically, Governor Spanberger's decision to basically force your hand and all the other sheriffs and lawmen around Virginia to no longer cooperate with ICE using the 287G program. What's that all about, and how does it affect you and the residents of Loudoun?
Well, her Executive Order 12 right now, what that does is it counters Governor Jenkins' Order 47 that actually requested or required law enforcement officials to engage with 287G in some capacity or another. And so right now the only control she has on that is over state police and Department of Corrections within the Commonwealth of Virginia. So it doesn't really impact us, and hopefully other legislation that they're looking at doesn't as well. We want to make sure that we keep our constitutional authority and our autonomy out here in these counties. There's nobody that knows our jurisdictions and our crime issues better than the local law enforcement officers, whether it's sheriffs or whether it's police chiefs. And I think we pretty much know the best way to accomplish what we need to do to keep our people safe.
Now, that doesn't affect you directly. However, if your counterparts, city police and county police and state police, are not cooperating, in effect, does that make your job a little harder, considering they're not working to try to get some of these criminals back into the hands of federal authorities so they can go through the deportation process?
Well, with the exception of the state police, pretty much all Northern Virginia hasn't cooperated, even with Governor Jenkins' order. So what we do here is called the Warrant Service Officer Program. So we don't do any field enforcement with ICE. What we do is if we arrest people, completely independent of anything to do with immigration, we don't know people what their immigration status is until we arrest them and book them in the jail. And once they're booked, we run them through a myriad of different computer checks, one of which is an IAQ, which is an ICE computer check. And they let us know if that person has a detainer on it and whether or not they're going to come and pick them up. Mm-hmm. And the agreement, all it does is it allows us to hold them at ICE request for an extra 48 hours in the event that they can't get out here quick enough. So generally what was going on before was we would notify ICE that we had somebody who was here illegally, that they had a detainer on, and that they, for example, would be getting let out tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And they'd come out and they'd come pick them up. And all this does is gives us an ability to extend it for another 48 hours. And we did that. We've always done that. I mean, this isn't anything new for us. We've always cooperated with ICE, with all of our federal counterparts. I think it's why we got the lowest crime rate in all Northern Virginia areas, because we work with our federal counterparts, our state and local counterparts, and I get, it's kind of disappointing that people, they'll pick on particular missions and all. Everybody out there that's part of the criminal justice system is working to keep our people safe, and we got to honor what they do. Yeah, I'm sorry, Patrice, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I think what you said is important there, wanting to keep everyone safe. So then can we read into Governor Spanberger's efforts here as, from a practical standpoint, from your viewpoint, as really not changing how things are going to operate and not having a very big negative impact? Because I think that's what people really care about. What's going to be at the end of the day? How will your work change, and will that mean that it's going to be more difficult to apprehend those who really are criminal and dangerous in the community?
Well, all it really does is it takes the state police and Department of Corrections out of the enforcement element of this, being on the street with ICE and enforcing immigration law. For us and for most sheriffs that are involved, and there are some that are involved in that. I think there's about 30 sheriff's offices throughout the Commonwealth that are part of this program, and several of which actually do the street enforcement. But all this really pertains to is the state police pulling them out. As it stands right now, ICE can still work with, or rather our other sheriff's offices that do have the field enforcement agreement can still work with ICE out there and help apprehend these people that are here illegally.
Sheriff Chapman, a lot of people are looking at this and saying, oh, then now the federal government, Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, maybe out of the White House, they'll say, okay, well, we should probably increase some of our presence in Northern Virginia or other parts of Virginia if we're not going to get cooperation with state police. And, one thing leads to another, and suddenly we've got a scene from Minnesota where you've got all of these protesters, you've got all of these other, and a lot of the increase of the ICE agents have been there because they're doing crowd control and almost, sort of riot abatement, because the protesters and people who are trying to get in the way of ICE's activities have become a dangerous situation for law enforcement. From your perspective as sheriff of Loudoun County, if something like that were to arise in Loudoun, what would your responsibility be there? Is there anybody who can tell you, nope, like we've seen with Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota? Can Abigail Spanberger tell you, Sheriff Chapman, stand down, you are not to engage or protect the ICE agents as they're trying to do their job?
Well, as you know, Loudoun is a little bit unique here when it comes to Northern Virginia because I'm elected sheriff, but I also have law enforcement responsibility. So I'm just actually both the chief and a sheriff here, which is not the same when you look at the surrounding counties here. So we can do what we feel is right to keep our citizens safe. And I'll tell you what, Larry, we get out in front of the issue, and by turning people over that are already in custody, it keeps ICE from having to go out here and do this field enforcement. When you have people that are already in custody and you say, look, can you come pick them up? They come pick them up. It takes one agent or maybe two at the most to come pick them up, and they take them and they process them. It's when people don't get out in front of it and don't cooperate on the front side that you have these problems. If other places did this, it baffles me why anybody would do that and why anybody would not want to entertain an ICE detainer and turn these people over to ICE or anybody that has a warrant on anybody in one of your jails, because if you ignore that and you release them into your community, then you're taking the risk of them committing a crime in your community, and it's just it's unsafe and it's irresponsible of law enforcement leaders, I think, to do that.
Well, I got to tell you, just in these 8 or 9 minutes that we've had together, between contrasting how you're going about your business in law enforcement there as sheriff of Loudoun County and how things are handled there versus what Governor Spanberger just announced for state police and correctional facilities, I can only say that the elections have serious consequences. On the one side, with Governor Spanberger winning the election in November, but also on the other side of the equation with Mike Chapman continuing to win countywide in Loudoun as the sheriff there. Sheriff Chapman, thanks for joining us. It's always great to talk with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks. Have a great day.
It is in 1 minute, we're going to get into the TrumpRX program that was announced yesterday and get all the details straight from the administration. First, though, it's 8:15. Well, what a launch for TrumpRX.gov. TrumpRX.gov. This is a brand new service for prescription drugs, including name brand prescription drugs, and some huge, deep discounts now that are being achieved. Joining us to lay this out is Chris Klomp. He's the director of Medicare, and he's a deputy administrator of Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and advisor to HHS Secretary RFK Jr. Mr. Klomp, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here. Good morning.
So first of all, is who gets to take advantage of these prices and these discounts at TrumpRX? Who is this for?
Well, that's right. Last night, President Trump launched the much-anticipated TrumpRX.gov. This is a site for all Americans to access some of the most utilized, often cash-pay pharmaceuticals at the most favored nation prices that he and the administration have been negotiating and announcing over the last several months. This is a game changer for all Americans. But you're right to ask the question. The focus to start is on cash pay pharmaceuticals. That's individuals who are not insured, who typically need to purchase their drugs at the cash price, who will benefit the most. And this should be their first stop always to check and see if they're getting the lowest price. But frankly, every American should check this site and ensure that they're paying the lowest price. And over time, we hope to expand coverage to all Americans, irrespective of their insurance coverage.
Now, this sounds really promising and certainly encouraging for so many families who have, diseases where they need to take drugs, prescription drugs, and it's so expensive. But I also recognize that there are some political challenges here. I mean, this is a winning issue, I would think, from bringing down healthcare costs. But I think there are some conservatives who have raised, concerns that this is government intervention in price controls and price setting that makes, traditional free market conservatives nervous. How do you guys respond to those concerns?
Well, the president is a free market conservative, as am I, and we believe in capitalism and free market principles. This is about fairness. This is about the quarter of Americans who show up to the pharmacy counter and don't pick up their prescriptions because of price. This is about the United States paying 3 times what citizens of other wealthy countries pay for the same drugs from the same box, same manufacturer, same manufacturing plant. Despite the fact that as a country, we fund over half of pharmaceutical R&D in the world, and we account for 60 to 65% of revenues and profits. To be clear, this is not the government getting into the drug selling business. You can't purchase a prescription through TrumpRX.gov. That's not the point. This is about TrumpRX.gov being a single source of truth for all Americans to know that they're getting the best price through their insurance or otherwise. It's about promoting transparency, which is a fundamental premise for a well-functioning market. Yeah. Right? A good market needs to have a willing buyer and seller. That buyer needs to know what they're buying, and they need to know what they're paying for it. And right now, you often don't. Your doctor writes you a prescription, but you don't know how much it's going to cost. Even if you have insurance, you don't know what it's going to cost you out of pocket. The goal here is to up the transparency so that we can up the level of competition, sunshine being the great disinfectant for markets.
Our guest is Chris Klomp. He's the director of Medicare, and he's speaking about the TrumpRX rollout yesterday. I would share with you real fast. My father-in-law texted me about this yesterday. And by the way, he's all MAGA all the time, so it's all good. Don't worry. He said to me, so he checked on 2 of his prescription drugs that he gets right now through his insurance company, and here's a good example on one of them. He was paying $9, which is, again, he's not like going nuts because he has to pay $9 for a prescription through his insurance company. But what was amazing is through TrumpRX, it was $3. So even the relatively inexpensive drugs are still getting a deep discount on TrumpRX. His question to me was, who was making that $6? Who was, because now that it's only clearly $3, everyone's making a little bit of money too. So it was obviously extraordinarily overpriced. Relatively speaking. Where was that money going? Was it the insurance company, the pharmaceutical company? Who was pocketing that $6?
Well, isn't that the question we should all be asking?
Yeah.
That's certainly the question the president asked when he launched the most favored nation policy in the first place.
Yeah.
This has bothered him for a long time. You can hear it in his voice. You heard it when he launched the most favored nation policy initiative in the first place last spring. It bothers him. He wanted to know, well, who are these so-called middlemen? I don't know who they are.
Right.
But I know that they're driving up cost. And surely that might be part of the problem. But genuinely, the bigger issue that he rightly identified was the fact that we had foreign free riding. Yeah. We have habituated the rest of the wealthy world to understand that they can buy drugs centrally, and as long as they offer a price that's just a little bit above the cost of production, the pharmaceutical company will probably sell it to them, knowing full well that the United States has paid for all of the R&D and they'll recoup all of their costs and make their profit from us. And it's just not fair.
That's not
so
fair.
The most favored nation policy has been about retraining the rest of the wealthy world, and it's happening. We've already announced an agreement in principle. The president, together with Ambassador Greer, who leads USTR, Secretary Kennedy, leading HHS, Secretary Lutnick, leading Commerce, negotiated in 59 days an agreement to have the United Kingdom raise how much it spends on pharmaceuticals for the first time in 26 years.
Wow.
And this has been the premise of the president's effort the whole time.
Yeah.
Other countries need to pay their fair share. They need to pay a little bit more so we can pay a little bit less.
And up until now, and no one really addressed it. No one even tried up until now. And once you try, it seems relatively simple to get it done if you got that set it up as a priority. All right, we got to leave it there. Sorry, we're up against it. Busy morning. Chris Klomp, you've got a busy day too, rolling out TrumpRX. Thanks for joining us. Tell Dr. Oz and RFK we said hi.
Nice to be with you. Thanks.
It's 8:24.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 8:37 on O'Connor and Company on a busy Friday morning. If you missed any of our program so far, subscribe to the podcast. The podcast is loaded up and ready to go for you to download and listen every day. I'm told by 10 a.m. is our regular operation now. So within an hour of us coming off the air, you'll be able to get the full podcast broken down by hour, broken down by interview, Patrice, Onwuka, including this interview.
I pull them all the time and reshare them. Yes.
Well, Katie Pavlich will be one of those interviews available. She, of course, is the host of NewsNation's brand new, primetime, spectacular, blockbuster, must-watch Katie Pavlich Tonight. Katie, good morning, and congratulations on the new gig.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Larry. It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
So what's it like? Now, listen, everybody, of course, knows you for, 15 years, I think, at Town Hall, and, of course, for many, many years as a contributor and host on so many Fox News programs, including The Five, et cetera. But this is different. You're now on a different channel, NewsNation, which has its own identity, which I think is really starting to cut through the noise. But you're a host of your own show. That's a daunting challenge.
It's been a really fun and exciting time, and yes, a new challenge. We have a great team, and I'm in DC now 5 days a week, which is great because this is where everything is happening.
Dude,
there's tons happening at the White House every day.
Katie, can I just tell you, because people like my mother-in-law is like, why is Katie Pavlich leaving Fox News? And I said, a lot of reasons, but I'll tell you one of them, because they were sending her to New York all the time. She doesn't live in New York. She's got a husband. Yeah. She lives in DC. I'm so happy that you get to stay here.
No, all my years at Fox were absolutely amazing, and it was not an easy choice to leave. But, now is the time to be in the nation's capital, and this is where everything is happening. And when I got this opportunity with NewsNation, I had to jump at it. So we're having a great time and doing a lot of big interviews and covering a lot of fun stories, too, and laughing. And so it's been good.
Well, congratulations, Katie. And, some of the interviews you've had, I think one of the most interesting ones lately, I would say two of them that I've seen here is you interviewing Secretary Doug Burgum, and then also Representative Byron Donalds from Florida. And you kind of talked about ICE immigration. I mean, from those two interviews, what were your biggest takeaways? Because I think those are two big issues here. It's how is the Trump administration handling ICE in light of Minnesota, and then going forward, what's going to be happening with our interior and the energy prices and the energy costs that so many people are worried about.
Yeah, so we interviewed Congressman Byron Donalds 2 nights ago, and I asked him specifically about those new calls for Republicans to negotiate with Democrats on ICE and enforcement of immigration laws. And as someone who's from Arizona and has covered this issue for 15 plus years, I have very little tolerance for this argument that Democrats can be trusted at all with this issue. And most American voters agree. And this, quite frankly, this softening or saying that we're going to pull back on enforcement, I think is a big mistake. And he agreed. So, Democrats are using this as a way they can negotiate in an election year to try and pull some DHS funding. We know the big, beautiful bill funds it through 2029, so I'm not exactly sure what they think they're going to be doing, but doing stupid things like trying to get rid of their masks and things that really will not make a difference other than harming our ICE agents. So I was pleased to hear him say that Republicans shouldn't give an inch on that. In terms of our interview with Secretary Burgum, it was amazing. I felt right at home. I'm from Arizona, as I mentioned. I love the West. I spent a lot of time hunting and in lodges, and his office looks like a hunting lodge. He's got his elk from North Dakota on the wall. But he was telling us all about Project Vault, which is the new Trump administration project, which is basically a strategic reserve for critical minerals, similar to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. So that was quite interesting. But also we got into, expanding hunting and fishing on public lands and the problem they're having out in Colorado with wolves being reintroduced through ballot box biology, which is causing a lot of problems for ranchers and the ecosystem there. So he talked about our balance sheet as being our resources, which I thought was a very interesting point. We, of course, have tons of debt, and the solution's always raise taxes, make Americans work harder, take more of their money. And his solution is we have vast, vast resources in Alaska, all over the continental United States, and we don't, we can offset all of that debt by, engaging with our natural resources in a way that's responsible and through conservation.
But Katie Pavlich, let's get to it. You famously were the first to point out that Secretary Burgum is, in fact, George Washington reincarnated. Did that come up in the interview? Did you challenge him on this?
I thought about asking about it, and then I chickened out. Honestly.
All right, that's probably fair.
I did interview him.
This is why you get a primetime show, and I'm stuck doing I'm the morning clown on MAL, which I'm perfectly fine with.
I was regretting my decision not to ask him, because when I interviewed him, it was the anniversary of George Washington being unanimously elected the first president of the United States, and I didn't realize that until after the interview was over. So,
missed opportunity. Wow. But Katie, on a serious note, with regard to what we're seeing in Minneapolis and the tactics being used and the elevation of martyrs for the cause, you have been so clear-headed and so outspoken with the issue of Hamas and what Hamas does in the Middle East. I'd just love for you to compare and contrast, because David Marcus has been writing about this in a couple of columns recently. The tactics you're seeing on the ground from this organized agitation resistance force in Minneapolis, and well-funded, by the way, it's uncanny how close it is to what the Hamas crowd does.
Yeah, no, it's very similar. They're using human shields. They're encouraging people to put their bodies on the line, which of course means harm themselves, so then that they have a narrative they can then use that the media has been gobbling up, that ICE needs to stop enforcing our laws because they're doing harm to people. We saw that with 2 people who have now been killed as a result of their actions. And so, yes, they use people to their advantage. They want them to get hurt, so they have a narrative and a reason to try and stop an agenda that was democratically voted for. And you have this heckler's veto that they're trying to install through this blue state, this blue city on the rest of the country, when the rest of the country still is showing that 51% of people want all illegal aliens deported and that they support President Trump's agenda, which is why I don't think they should back down at all. But, and this use also of journalists, Don Lemon's a good example. Just because you have a camera in your hand doesn't mean you get to break the law. In Gaza, there's all these people who say that they're journalists with a press vest on, and then we find out they're members of Hamas or they helped kidnap hostages. It doesn't give you a free pass to break the law or to harm people. And that's exactly what you're seeing with this group.
Katie Pavlich, host of Katie Pavlich Tonight on NewsNation. I don't want to see you storming into some church or following some angry mob protest. That's what you've got Spencer Brown, your producer, for. Send him in there. Right?
I send him to do the tough things.
That's right. All right. Thank you, Katie. Have a great weekend, and we'll watch the show tonight. It's 8:45. A friend of the friend of the program, Sean Spicer, was down in Richmond, and he spotted something rather funny. He put it out on his social media. He took a picture of the parking spot for Attorney General Jay Jones at Gray Street in downtown Richmond, right outside the office. And there's a new notice that has just been attached to the signpost where the Attorney General parks. It says that it is a gun-free zone.
Oh.
Right there. And I guess, as Sean Spicer points out, that's appropriate because when the Attorney General, Jay Jones, is in the habit of threatening political opponents with 2 bullets to the head, it's probably smart to make that a gun-free zone. You don't want Jay Jones.
That is somebody trolling him. That is totally someone trolling him because it's not affixed. It looks like it's used zip ties are affixing the sign to it.
Somebody just put it up there. You think Sean did it just for the photo op, just to go viral?
I mean, it's funny how just like James Comey happened to see the message on the beach about killing the president. I don't know, Sean. Hopefully not, but
it's 8:53.